Sister excluded me from her wedding because my kids might make people uncomfortable, then suddenly showed up at my door with gifts after 2 years of NC because she's infertile. I, 38F, have twin boys, 11, who are on the autism spectrum. My husband and I have worked our asses off to create a stable environment for them. They're amazing kids who just need a bit more support and understanding than most. We've dealt with our share of challenges, meltdowns in grocery stores, that one disaster of a school play, don't ask, and the constant battle with the school district to get proper accommodations. But we've figured it out, mostly. I used to be really close with my sister growing up. Like, finish each other's sentences close. We shared clothes, secrets, everything. She was the first person I called when I found out I was pregnant. I was there for her through every breakup, job crisis, whatever. She was there when my boys were diagnosed, or at least I thought she was. She brought over lasagna and sat with me while I cried. Things started changing when she met her now husband about 5 years ago. He comes from some kind of important family. They're not actually important, just have money and know people. His dad was on the city council years ago or something, and they act like that makes them royalty. My sister gradually started hanging out with his friends and family more, canceling our plans, the usual drift. At first it was just, oh, Josh's mom invited us for dinner or Josh's friends are having a thing. Then it became every weekend, then every call was about them. The boys noticed. They'd ask about their aunt, why she didn't come over anymore. I made excuses because I didn't want them to feel rejected. I told them she was busy with work or traveling. I hate lying to my kids, but what was I supposed to say? Your aunt doesn't want to deal with you because her new boyfriend thinks you're weird? Because that's what it felt like. When they got engaged, I was happy for her. I genuinely was. I sent flowers and a card and all that shit. I asked her if she wanted me to help with wedding planning, and she gave me this weird look and said I'll think about it. Well, she never brought it up again. I figured she was busy or whatever. I still bought a dress, assuming I'd be part of the wedding somehow. It's still hanging in my closet with the tags on. Then one day I'm scrolling through Facebook, yeah I still use it, sue me, and see all these pictures of her wedding. A fucking wedding I wasn't invited to. Not just not in the wedding party, not even invited as a guest. My parents were there. Our cousins were there. Even some people from high school she barely talked to anymore were there. But not me, not my husband, and definitely not my kids. I called her immediately and she actually answered, which surprised me. When I asked her what the hell happened, she hemmed and hawed before finally saying that her in-laws didn't want any disruptions at the wedding and that my kids might make people uncomfortable. She said she fought really hard to include us but eventually gave in because it was her special day and she didn't want any drama. As if my kids are just walking drama machines or something. I remember exactly where I was when she said that, standing in my kitchen, staring at the stupid refrigerator magnet she'd brought me from her vacation the year before. It had Sisters Forever written on it. I took it down while we were still on the phone and threw it in the trash. Then I called my parents, assuming they'd be as outraged as I was. Nope. They actually defended her. Said that sometimes tough decisions have to be made and that I should try to understand her position. My dad even had the nerve to say that those kinds of events can be overstimulating for my boys anyway, so maybe it was for the best. As if they know what's best for my kids better than I do. As if we haven't been managing outings and events for years. That's when it hit me that this wasn't new. They'd always treated my boys differently than my cousins' kids. Less birthday presents. Less enthusiasm. They'd buy my nephew a drum set. For a 4-year-old, but get my kids educational toys to help with their development. They'd take my niece to the zoo but suggest my boys might not enjoy that kind of thing. I blocked all of them after that. Changed my number, moved across town. We were planning to move anyway because we needed a house with a better layout for the boys, but this accelerated things. My husband was completely on board. He was even more pissed than I was, if that's possible. He never really got along with my family anyway. They always treated him like he wasn't good enough because he works with his hands. God forbid someone be a carpenter instead of sitting in an office all day. We built a new life with friends who actually give a shit about our family. We found a support group for parents of kids with autism. We made friends with other families through that. We have neighbors who invite us to barbecues and don't give a crap if one of my kids needs to wear noise-canceling headphones or take breaks in a quiet room. Just normal people who treat my kids like, kids. That was over 2 years ago. I honestly thought that chapter of my life was closed. I still saw posts about them sometimes through mutual friends, but I'd just scroll past. I heard through the grapevine that my sister was trying to get pregnant right after the wedding. Starting a family right away or whatever. Good for her, I thought. She can have the perfect little neurotypical family she always wanted. Then yesterday, out of fucking nowhere, my sister, mom, and dad show up at our front door with bags of presents and these fake-ass smiles. I asked how they found our address and they ignored that question, which is creepy as hell. Seriously, we were unlisted, and none of our mutual friends would have given it to them without asking me first. I'm guessing they hired someone or something, which just makes this whole thing even weirder. My sister started crying immediately, always her go-to move, and saying how much she missed me and the boys. My mom chimed in about how they've done a lot of thinking and realized their mistake. My dad just stood there looking uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot like he used to do when we were kids, and he was about to say no to something. My sister then drops this bomb: she and her husband have been trying for a baby for 2 years with no luck. They've done all these fertility treatments that haven't worked, and now she's reconsidering what family really means. She literally said that phrase, like she was reading from a Hallmark card. She talked about how they've seen 3 specialists and done IVF twice, and how her husband's family is pressuring them about carrying on the family name. I just stared at them for a minute, trying to process this bullshit. My mom was nodding along, my dad was examining our porch light like it was the most fascinating thing he'd ever seen. And my sister just kept talking, going on about how she'd had an epiphany about what truly matters in life. Then I told them exactly what I thought, that they only want a relationship now because they can't have their perfect little family, so they're settling for mine. That they didn't care about my boys when they excluded them from a family event because they were what? Embarrassing? But now that Sister Dearest can't have her own kids, suddenly mine are good enough? My dad tried to interrupt with some crap about that's not fair, but I wasn't finished. I told them that my kids aren't emotional support animals they can ignore and then pick up when it's convenient. They're human beings who were hurt by being treated like they were defective. I reminded them that we used to have Sunday dinner together every week, and then suddenly those invitations stopped when my sister started dating her husband. My mom started crying then, saying I was being cruel and that they've learned their lesson. My sister just stared at me like I'd slapped her, which honestly I was close to doing. She kept trying to hand me this gift bag, pushing it toward me like it would fix everything. I could see some kind of fancy toy poking out of the top, exactly the kind of thing that would overstimulate one of my boys and cause a meltdown. They didn't even remember the basics about them. I told them to fuck off and take their guilt gifts with them. Then I shut the door. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely turn the lock. But they had left the gifts outside my doors. I later threw them in the garage. My husband heard the commotion and came downstairs, and I told him what happened. He said I did the right thing, but now I'm second guessing myself. The thing is, my boys have asked about their grandparents and aunt a few times over the years. Not often, but enough that I know they remember them. Part of me wonders if I'm depriving my kids of family relationships out of spite. But another part of me thinks letting these people back into our lives would just set my kids up for more rejection down the road. What happens when my sister miraculously gets pregnant after all? Will she drop us again? Will my parents go back to treating my kids like they're lesser? I haven't told the boys about the visit. They were at a friend's house when it happened, thank God. I swapped shifts with a coworker last minute. That's the only reason I was even home when they showed up. Am I the asshole here? Should I have at least heard them out for my kids' sake? Update: holy shit, I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Thanks for all the comments and support. RIP my inbox. A lot of you misunderstood some things though, so let me clarify. 1. My boys aren't severely autistic or anything. They have some sensory issues and struggle with social cues sometimes, but they can absolutely handle a wedding with proper preparation. They've been to other events just fine. That was just an excuse. One of them is actually super quiet and usually just sits and plays his games. The other one is more active but follows rules really well if you explain them clearly. They're not disruptive unless you consider any child who isn't perfectly silent and still disruptive. 2. To the people saying well maybe they really have changed, you weren't there. You didn't see the look on my sister's face when she was talking about her fertility issues. It wasn't about reconnecting with family, it was about her wanting what she couldn't have. It was the same look she used to get when I got a toy she wanted as a kid. 3. And no, they didn't apologize. Not once during their little speech did anyone say I'm sorry. It was all about how they felt and what they wanted now. How they were struggling and how reconnecting would be good for them. Not a word about the damage they'd done or how their actions affected my kids. 4. Someone asked about my husband's family. They live on the other side of the country. They send birthday cards and we video chat on holidays, but they're not really involved day to day. They've never been weird about the boys' autism though, so that's something. 5. And to the person who private messaged me saying I'm using my kid's disability as an excuse to be angry, kindly go fuck yourself. You have no idea what we've been through. Anyway, a lot has happened since my post. My sister has been texting me nonstop since the incident. At first it was more crying and guilt tripping, but now she's getting nasty, saying I'm punishing her for one mistake and that I'm being childish. One mistake? They excluded my entire family from a major life event and then ignored us for 2 years. That's not one mistake. That's a series of deliberate choices. She also sent this weird text at like 2 a.m. saying she always wanted to be an aunt and that she envied my motherhood journey. Who talks like that? It feels so fake and rehearsed. This is the same person who used to ask me to make the boys wait in another room when she came over because their stimming made her uncomfortable. My parents called too, but I didn't answer because I figured it was. They left a voicemail saying they want to meet on neutral ground to talk things over like adults. Apparently they had changed their numbers or something to get around their old numbers being blocked. I did end up telling my husband everything they said, and he thinks they're full of shit too. He reminded me that when our boys were first diagnosed, my parents kept sending us articles about cures and suggesting we try different diets or whatever instead of actually helping or trying to understand. I'd almost forgotten about that. Or the time my mom told a waitress that my son wasn't being rude when he didn't answer her question, he was just autistic, in this loud whisper like it was some shameful secret. My sister also used to make comments about how having twins must be so hard with this fake sympathy voice, especially after the diagnosis. She'd ask questions like, will they ever be able to live independently? When they were 4. Who asks that about a 4-year-old? Even neurotypical kids can't live independently at 4. I'm still not sure what to do about telling my kids. One of them found a gift bag they left behind. I thought I'd gotten them all, and asked who it was from. I just said it was from an old friend and put it away. I feel weird about lying to them, but I also don't want to get their hopes up about people who might disappear again. They've been doing so well lately. Some of you asked if I'd consider family therapy with them, and maybe someday, but right now I'm just trying to process all this. My husband suggested we take a family trip next month to get away from all this drama, which sounds pretty good right now. There's this place a few hours away with cabins by a lake. The boys went there on a school trip once and loved it. Oh, and weirdly, one of my mom's friends, who I haven't spoken to in years, sent me a friend request on Facebook yesterday. I'm guessing they're trying to get information through other channels now. I ignored it, obviously. I might update again if anything significant happens, but for now I'm trying to focus on my actual family, the people who've been here consistently. Update 2. Okay, so it's been about a week since everything went down and there have been some developments. I wasn't going to update again so soon, but stuff keeps happening and I need to vent. First off, thanks to everyone who commented with actual helpful advice instead of just calling me bitter, which like, yeah no shit I'm bitter, wouldn't you be? And for those asking, no, I haven't looked at the presents they brought, but I would check them out before posting this update. For now they're sitting in the garage. So my sister showed up at my workplace on Tuesday. I work part-time at this small office and she just walked in during my shift. I have no idea how she found out where I work, which continues to be super creepy. I took her outside because I didn't want to cause a scene in front of my coworkers. I was furious but tried to keep my voice down because we were in the parking lot and people could see us. She started with this whole speech about how she's been doing a lot of soul searching, her exact words, and how finding out she can't have kids has put things in perspective for her. Then she started talking about how her husband has evolved and is thinking about special needs children, again, her words, and said in this weird whisper like it's some kind of secret. I just stood there wondering if she was reading from a script, because none of it sounded genuine. She kept checking her phone while she was talking, which is something she always does when she's lying. She used to do it when we were teenagers and she'd make up excuses for why she couldn't do something with me. Then she got to the point, her husband's family is having this big reunion thing in a few months, and she wants to show them what real family looks like by bringing me and the boys. She literally said she wanted to show them how amazing special kids can be, like my children are some kind of inspiration porn for her in-laws. That's when it clicked. This isn't about reconnecting with us at all. This is about her showing off to her in-laws that she has some kind of relationship with her nephews. Like we're props in her life story or something. Like my kids are some kind of consolation prize or backup plan since she can't have her own. I told her I had to get back to work and walked away. She called after me that I need to stop living in the past, which is rich coming from someone who only wants a relationship now that her original plan didn't work out. I was shaking for the rest of my shift. My boss noticed and let me leave early, which was decent of her. Here's the thing, I might have considered letting them back in, gradually, if they'd shown any understanding of what they did wrong. But they're still treating my kids like they're different or special or whatever, not just kids who deserve to be treated with basic respect. They're still making it about them and their needs. Then yesterday my mom called from a new number I didn't recognize, which is how I ended up answering. She said my sister is devastated and that I'm being too hard on her. I asked her point blank, "Did you think it was wrong to exclude us from the wedding?" She didn't answer directly, just said something about complicated situations and doing what seems best at the time. I pushed her on it, and she finally admitted that she thought the wedding wasn't an appropriate setting for children with issues. Those were her exact words. Not even using their names or acknowledging them as her grandchildren, just children with issues. I hung up. I'm done with the non-apologies and excuses, with the implication that my kids are somehow less than other children. I'm done with the way they talk around the real issue, which is that they're embarrassed by my kids and only want a relationship now because circumstances have changed for them. My husband took the boys out for ice cream after school today, and while they were gone I finally went through those gift bags. It was exactly what I expected, generic toys that showed they don't know my kids at all. Stuff that's way too young for them, or that doesn't align with their interests at all. There was a card in one of the bags with a check for a pretty significant amount of money. No note, just the check. Like they're trying to buy their way back into our lives. I ripped it up. We don't need their money. We've been doing fine without it for 2 years. As for my boys, I finally sat down with them last night and explained in simple terms that sometimes family members don't treat each other very well, and that's why they haven't seen their grandparents or aunt in a while. I didn't go into detail or try to make them take sides. One of them asked if they'd see them again, and I said maybe someday, but not right now. They seemed to accept that pretty easily, which makes me think they don't remember as much about my family as I thought they did. 2 years is a long time when you're 11. One of them mentioned that he remembered Grandma made good cookies, and the other one said he didn't like how Grandpa's house smelled. It did have a weird mothball smell. Then they wanted to know if they could play video games, and that was that. I think that was the right approach. They seemed okay with it. Today my sister posted this vague thing on social media about forgiving people who don't know how to accept love or some crap like that. Several relatives commented with heart emojis. I guess I'm the villain in their version of the story. Fine by me. So yeah, that's where things stand. Am I still the asshole? Maybe. But I'd rather be an asshole than let my kids be used as emotional band-aids for someone else's disappointment. Update 3, I wasn't planning to update again so soon, but things have escalated and I'm still processing everything that happened. So remember how I mentioned my sister posted that vague thing on social media? Well, apparently she's been posting a lot more than that. A mutual friend, one of the few who hasn't taken sides, sent me screenshots of stuff my sister has been saying about me online. She's basically painting herself as this heartbroken aunt who just wants to reconnect with her nephews, and me as this vindictive bitch who's using my kids as weapons. She's even got this hashtag she's using, #anti-love or something equally nauseating. What's really infuriating is that she's sharing information about my kids, their ages, that they're autistic, even some old photos of them. All for sympathy points from her stupid followers. I'm seriously considering legal action because this feels like a huge invasion of privacy. My kids didn't ask to be part of her social media pity party. But wait, it gets better, or worse, actually. Yesterday, I got a call from the school saying my parents showed up there trying to see the boys. The school. They told the office they were the grandparents and wanted to surprise them at lunch. Thankfully, they're not on the approved pickup list, so the school called me immediately. I've never been so grateful for school security protocols. I called my parents right away and lost my shit. I told them if they ever tried something like that again, I'd get a restraining order. My dad actually tried to defend it, saying they just wanted to see the boys and didn't think it was a big deal. Not a big deal to show up unannounced at an elementary school? In what world is that normal behavior? My mom got on the phone and started crying, again, saying they were desperate and didn't know what else to do. I told them what else they could do, respect my fucking boundaries for once in their lives. Then I hung up and called a friend for advice on restraining orders, just in case. I had to leave work early, again, to go talk to the school principal and make sure they understood the situation. She was actually really supportive and said they'd make a note in the boys' files about unauthorized visitors. I felt like I was in some bizarre custody battle, except it's with people who have no legal right to my kids in the first place. Then last night, the doorbell rings around 8 p.m. I look out the peephole and see my sister's husband standing there. Not my sister. Not my parents. Her husband. The same guy who thought my kids weren't good enough to be at his precious wedding. I didn't open the door, just called out that he needed to leave or I'd call the police. He slipped an envelope under the door and left without saying anything. Inside was a formal letter from him apologizing for any misunderstandings and explaining how he's grown as a person since getting married. There was also another check, bigger than the last one. He wrote in the memo line, "For the boys' future. Like we need his charity." The whole thing reads like it was written by a PR team. There's not a single specific thing in there about what he did wrong or why it hurt us. Just vague platitudes about family bonds and second chances. I showed it to my husband, and he just laughed and said this guy still doesn't get it, does he? I'm exhausted by all of this. It feels like they're wearing me down on purpose, like they think if they just keep pushing and pushing, I'll eventually give in. The boys have picked up on my stress too. I sat them both down and promised that we weren't going anywhere, that they were safe, and that they didn't need to worry. I explained that sometimes adults have disagreements that take time to work out. I kept it simple and reassuring. They seemed okay after that, but I hate that this is affecting them at all. My husband suggested we should document everything that's happening in case we do need to get legal protection. So I've started keeping a log of all the contact attempts, saving texts and voicemails, taking screenshots of my sister's posts, that kind of thing. It feels extreme, but so does showing up at someone's workplace or their kid's school. For now, my plan is to continue ignoring them as much as possible while protecting my family. I've blocked my sister's new social media accounts, changed my email password, just in case, and made sure all our emergency contacts are up to date with people we actually trust. I'm still not sure if I'm handling this right. I guess my question now is, how do I protect my kids from all this drama while still making sure they don't feel like there's some big secret being kept from them? And am I wrong for thinking that some relationships are just too damaged to fix, no matter how much soul-searching the other person claims to have done? Update 4. Well, it's been a few weeks since my last update. Things have finally calmed down a bit, which is why I haven't felt the need to post. But I figured I should wrap this up for those who have been following along and offering support. First, thanks for all the messages checking in on us. It means a lot to know there are people out there who understand where I'm coming from, even if they've never met me or my kids. After the school incident, I had my friend's lawyers help me to draft me a formal cease and desist letter to my parents and sister. It's not legally binding in the same way as a restraining order, but it does create a paper trail if things escalate further. The letter basically stated that any further unannounced visits to our home, my workplace, or the kids' school would result in legal action. Surprisingly, it seems to have worked. My sister has stopped posting about us on social media, as far as I know, and there have been no more surprise visits. My parents sent a brief email acknowledging receipt of the letter and saying they need time to process everything. Fine by me. My husband and I did end up taking the trip to the lake. We rented a cabin for a long weekend and just disconnected from everything. The boys loved it, they collected rocks, spotted wildlife, and my husband taught them how to skip stones on the water. It was exactly what we all needed. I've been doing some thinking about family and what it really means. Growing up, I always thought family was this non-negotiable thing, you're stuck with who you're related to, for better or worse. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that family is really about who shows up for you consistently, who accepts you as you are, who puts in the effort to understand and support you. I don't know if my sister, parents, and I will ever reconcile. Maybe someday, if they can demonstrate that they've truly changed and are willing to accept my kids exactly as they are. But I'm not holding my breath, and I'm not putting my life on hold waiting for it to happen. Someone in the comments of my last post said something that really stuck with me: your only obligation is to the family you've chosen, not the family you were born into. That feels right to me. For now, we're just living our lives. I probably won't update again unless something major changes. Thanks again for listening and for the support. It helped more than you know.